of GeoQlik. I'm here today to show you GeoQlik for QlikSense. GeoQlik is a QlikSense extension that delivers advanced mapping capabilities into QlikSense. With your permission, I will skip any introductions and jump right into the live demonstration. And so the demonstration you're just about to see is an example of a sales performance application which analyzes the commercial activity of a business from a spatial perspective. My company sells shoes and hats for the sake of this example. And what I want to do is to analyze our sales activity in 3 different levels of detail. The first level will be through the different regions as I have defined them. My regions are going to be the countries of the UK plus Greater London. Treating Greater London as a region made sense to us from a commercial perspective. The second level is going to be throughout the different counties. And the third level will be on an actual customer level. So each customer that ever visited any one of our shops. And as you can see by the image, since our products are so cool, people just run towards our shops waving money. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen and move to my QlikSense application. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen. If not now, then within a couple of seconds. Okay, so I've opened my QlikSense application. On the left, you can see standard QlikSense charts, starting with a list of regions, a list of stores, a gauge, and a bar chart. On the right, you can see the GeoQlik chart object that I already inserted into the sheet. The left panel of GeoQlik shows me all the analyses currently configured for this particular map. All of them are hidden at the moment. Creating new ones is easily done by dragging and dropping dimensions inside the map. On the right, we see the map's legend. Let's take a look at all these different analyses, which provide, I find, an interesting showcase of the visualizations available in GeoQlik. And so starting with the simplest one, displaying the sales in the different regions. Each region gets a different color based on the palette that I selected. And the legend displays the figures and the matching colors. In GeoQlik, on top of the visual properties of each analysis, you can also create HTML-based tooltips using expressions. So by moving the mouse over the regions, I can get a lot of additional data. For example, the tooltips that I've created show me the picture and the name of the regional manager alongside the current up-to-date sales figures. And all that again using simple expressions that you can set, that you can type in. Moving on to the second analysis, which also displays sales figures, but this time over the different counties. So this allows me to perform a drill down and get a more detailed view of a selected area. Again, with the tooltips that I have configured to show whatever interests me over the sales in the different counties. Let's move on to the next one, which is an interesting example of how a single analysis can display several different indicators. Each one of these bubbles can have a different color, a different size, and a different level of transparency. This is seen very clearly in the legend on the right. So you see the legend on the right now shows 3 blocks with the color showing me the best-selling product in each region, yellow for hats, green for shoes. The size represents the total amount of sales, and the opacity of each bubble displays a KPI that I've called activity indicator. That's simply an expression that I've entered, which ranks the level of activity in each region based on the market potential it's targeting. In other words, a transparent bubble is a clear sign of a problem. In our case, we easily identify a problem in Wales. That's because the bubble is almost transparent. So what I want to do next is drill down into the next level, in which I will be able to study this local phenomenon, study why the bubble in Wales is almost transparent. And so I'm displaying my next analysis. And I will start by selecting Wales in the list box on the left, so I can concentrate on the area that interests me now. So selecting Wales in the list box on the left. As you can see, the map updates to reflect this selection. And let's zoom in for a closer look. This analysis, as you can see by the legend, shows me all the recent sales within the last 180 days. Each bubble is a customer. And for each one of these customers, I can answer 3 questions. What, when, and how much? The color, again, is the product purchased. The size is the sum of money paid. And the transparency, in this case, is the number of days since the last purchase. In other words, the time dimension can now be viewed and analyzed. And with that, we can see that all the bubbles in southern Wales are almost disappearing, unlike the bubbles in the north. And that indicates a very, very poor activity over there in southern Wales during the last 180 days. Now, what we can do is make a selection of these customers in southern Wales and see what we can learn. Using the lasso, I made a selection on the map. My QlikSense app updates to reflect this selection. And what we can see now is that the list of stores on the left shows me that all these customers that I just selected all visited the same store located in Cardiff. And that's a significant piece of information that will have to be studied. So as you've seen, starting from a very high level, when I'm viewing just Wales, drilling down to a country level, making a selection of a specific group of customers, and trying to understand the phenomenon behind what we're seeing. And let's clear the selection this time. So clearing the QlikSense selection, and I want to zoom out again to see all of my regions again. Just to show you how easy it is to configure such an analysis, I will switch on the edit mode. I will select the GeoQlik component, and I will view the list of analyses currently configured. So I see all the different analyses that appear in the panel on the left. And I'm going to expand the panel for this specific analysis, which is called Recent Sales. And let's look, for example, at the opacity setting. So again, I'm expanding the panel called Opacity within this specific analysis. And what we can see here is that the expression that I chose to enter returns the most recent deal for each customer. And to this value, I'm associating an opacity of 25 to 100%. It's that simple. Choosing an expression and choosing how I want to interpret it into a visual element. In this case, opacity. I will switch off the edit mode. When viewing all of my customers on a country level, what we're doing now, we can see that the bubbles analysis, such as this one, is sometimes not ideal. Sure, it shows me where my customers are located, and it gives me an idea of where the denser regions are. However, there are just too many objects to be able to truly evaluate the density. In such a case, we'd prefer a different type of analysis, one better suited to display density. And so with the heat map that I just displayed, I can see a clear image of density phenomena. With a heat map, I can easily read within seconds my map and identify the hot areas and the cold areas. So again, when there's a lot of data, probably not use bubbles unless in very specific cases, but prefer using something like this visualization, a heat map. So far, we've seen area maps, we've seen bubbles, we've seen a heat map in different levels of details. So regions, counties, or even individual customers. But that's not it. With pie charts or bar charts, I can display, for example, the sales distribution between the different products in the different areas. This particular analysis shows me an interesting anomaly. I can see that in Scotland, we're hardly selling any hats. Well, that could be an indication to maybe launch a targeted marketing campaign in that area for our hats. Or it could simply mean that in Scotland, we're maybe better off selling umbrellas rather than hats. By the way, just to make sure it's clear, I can display several analyses at the same time, if that makes sense to me. So overlay several measures at the same time. So in this case, I'm also showing the sales in the different counties together with the pie charts. So overlaying as many measures as I want at the same time. Again, if it makes sense to me, on a visual level. Displaying data on a map can sometimes allow you to identify patterns that you will never be able to see otherwise. Let's take a look at the following example. So I'm displaying another analysis this time, showing me the sales margins in the different counties. We can see that in some areas margins are good, in some areas they're not good, which is normal. However, with this image, I can identify a concentration of counties with poor margins around northern England. Again, without a map, phenomena such as geographic proximity are almost impossible to notice. If you put all these counties in a matrix or in a pie chart, you will never be able to see phenomena related to geographic proximity. In this particular case, this red color could indicate maybe a tendency to give too much discount by a local shop selling to these counties in this particular area. And so before calling my regional manager for this area, I want to first maybe get a better idea of the figures behind this red color. Using GeoQlik, we can also display labels on a map. So we get a good idea of the figures behind these colors. Each one of these labels displays an expression that I've entered. As you can imagine, this opens the door to a lot of possibilities. I can put in these labels anything I want from within my data model. Using labels, we can do much more than just displaying plain text, as I just did. Let's take a look at the following example. In this case, we're displaying symbols together with numbers, so the arrow and the figure for each region, but I'm also using the color and the size to convey more information. So again, several KPIs displayed using one single analysis. Each one of these KPIs is, of course, an expression that I typed. We've spent some time looking at different visualization options available in GeoQlik. However, with GeoQlik, you can display not only data found within your data model using points or KML. We can also display other data coming from other sources. So there's a different option, which is plugging into existing geographic data found outside of our data model. Without going into too much detail, just to give you an idea of what it means, I will open the GeoQlik Management Console. The GeoQlik Management Console, which you can now see on your screens, I hope, is a centralized asset management system specifically for geographic data. All the different map layers that are now configured in my GeoQlik Management Console come from a multitude of different sources, either files or spatial databases. These different resources can be shared by all the GeoQlik users within my organization. And that's a key point. It means that I can harness any of these data to display analyses in GeoQlik without having to store this information inside my QlikSense data model. I can easily connect new map layers, either stored on my machine or on a distant server, using this system. For example, a map layer with the different airports in the world. I can also see a preview of this data on a map. And this geographic data can be used to create visualizations with GeoQlik within QlikSense.